Good morning and welcome to Peace Out. We are all learning together to peace out, right? I know I'm working on it every single day, every single moment of every single day, it seems like, right? But it's okay because we serve the God of peace. Several times in Romans, Paul refers to God as the God of peace. We know that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. He's got us covered with peace. And then he made peace through the cross as if there was nothing more that he could do, right? He is the God of peace. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. God gave peace in the Old Testament. He gave peace in the New Testament. He made peace with us through the cross, through the blood of Christ. We have peace with God, and that should permeate our entire lives. The truth, facts change, truth does not. That God has purposed peace for us. And that's not even really what I was going to talk about today, but that's a good start, I think, right? He purposed peace for us. His whole goal before he said, let there be light, was to make sure we had a way to get back to him and a way to make peace with him. Now, here's the cool thing. If they could have peace with God in the Old Testament, even if they had to do it through sacrifice and through all the religious rituals and stuff, how much more should we be able to freely experience his peace in the New Testament? I was listening to Dwayne Sheriff yesterday. I love Dwayne Sheriff. And he was talking about how, and I know this, but in First John, it talks about how Jesus was the King James term for it is propitiation for all of our sins. It means he took care of all of them before we even sinned them. He doesn't go to the cross every time we mess up. He went to the cross once and he forgave all the sins that had ever been committed, are being committed, will ever be committed. He covered them all. Otherwise, he'd have to go to the cross every time we sinned, which means for me, he would have to live there, right? He'd just be there every day again and again and again. But no, he went one time and he forgave all the sins. It's up to us to accept that forgiveness. And that's where believing comes in, right? And that's where we trust that his sacrifice was enough. And now we clothe ourselves in his righteousness. What else do we have to worry about? Seriously, other than eating. I worry a lot about eating, but we don't really have anything to worry about because everything that is eternal about us has already been taken care of. That just blows my mind. So this morning, actually the last few mornings, I've been spending some time in Second Kings, just looking at some of the miracles that Elisha, in the life of Elisha. And this morning I found myself back there. I was reading the story of Naaman. I need to write out a bunch of notes. Maybe when I get done here and find 5 seconds today, I'll do that. So much in that story that it's just like, wow, there's pride, there's deceit, there's healing, there's peace, there's love, there's dissension. There's a little in chapter 5 of Second Kings. There's just a whole bunch in that story to unpack. So I went back there this morning, but that's not what got my attention. I actually started noticing in chapter 4, there were 3 distinct miracles that had to do with food. Yeah, I'm hungry this morning, so maybe that's why I'm thinking about food, right? So the first miracle in Ephesians, 2 Kings 4 is this, that there was a poor widow and she came to Elisha and she said, my husband served you well. He was one of your servants, but he died and left some debt. And so now my sons are going to be sold into slavery to pay off the debts. They're going to have to go serve their time and pay off the debts through slavery. That was the custom, the culture of the day, right? We're still a slave. We just work differently, right? We're still a slave to debt, but we just work it off a little differently than back then. But you actually took a servant and you didn't pay them. They paid you back by working for you, right? And so she said, my sons are going to have to go into slavery. So not only have I lost my husband, I'm going to lose my sons. And Elisha said, what do you have? You know, that's interesting because that's the same question God asked Moses in Exodus 2, right? That he said, what do you have in your hand? And Moses said, just a rod, because I've been working a sheep, right? And so here the same thing, Elisha asked the widow the same thing. What do you have? She goes, well, we've got one flask of oil. That's all I've got. I have nothing. And Elisha said, I think that's enough. Go borrow as many containers as you can. It probably looks silly. They went and borrowed all these containers and he started just filling up containers using the same. That had to be amazing to watch. He's got one little flask of oil and they keep bringing containers and he just fills them. Containers that are bigger than the flask, smaller than the flask. I don't even know how many flasks or containers they could have possibly had, but he just kept pouring. They just kept bringing containers. And finally he said, I need another container. And they said, that's the last one. We don't have any more to borrow. That's all we could find. Makes me wonder if they had kept bringing containers, would the oil have kept flowing? I don't know. That's what a busy mind goes to, right? But he said, that's the last container. He said, this is enough. They were able to sell all the oil, pay off the debts, and live on it. God didn't just meet the one need. He went beyond that. Wait, there's another story, right? There's another story. At the end of chapter 4, some man brought basically an offering to Elisha as the prophet. That was the custom in the days to give offerings to minister to those who are ministering to you or to the priest. That was part of the old commandment too. But they brought gifts to the prophet, and so he brought him a sack of fresh grain and 20 loaves of barley bread from his first harvest. So he's kind of paying a tithe. They didn't call it a tithe, but it's kind of a tithe here, right? And so he said, oh, this is perfect. I can feed the group of prophets that are here. Kind of like we would call it a school of prophets, or it was just kind of a group. Can you imagine 100 prophets in one room? Whew, I don't even want to think about it. I relate. Anyway, and so he says, well, I'll just feed them. And the guy laughed and said, you can't feed 100 people with this bread, with just these 20 loaves of bread. And see, this is Old Testament, y'all. Jesus did it in the New Testament. We go, ooh, that's cool. But he did it in the Old Testament. God did it in the Old Testament too. It wasn't something brand new. Jesus was just extending it from the old into the new. He brought all of that grace, all of that peace, all of that forgiveness. He established it. He established the law. He didn't do away with it. He just extended it, right? Extended the good parts, right? Without the harsh parts and the rules and regulations. Anyway, sorry, that was a side note. So anyway, so Elisha says, oh, sure, they'll have enough to eat and they'll have some left over. And the guy thought he was half crazy, but guess what happened? It says Elisha said, give it to the group of prophets so they can eat. And the Lord says there'll be plenty for all. There will even be some left over. And sure enough, there was plenty for all and some left over, just as God had commanded, just as God had promised, right? So he fed 100 people with just a few loaves of bread. Very similar to the two stories we have in the New Testament where Jesus fed a multitude of people. So he fed more with less, if you think about it, because Elisha had 20 loaves of bread that he fed 100 people with, right? That's just a little bite of bread for each one of them, but he fed them. It was enough. And then in the New Testament, Jesus fed 5,000 with just two fish and 5 loaves. So he made it bigger. He made it better. He extended it further. He did more with less. That's what grace looks like. It is always enough. And it's always more. It's always, maybe I should say it this way. His grace is always more than enough. You know, it's what he told Paul. My grace is enough for whatever you're facing today. Paul was like, please take this away. Make it go away. You know, Elisha could have said, God, just take these people away. I don't know what to do with them. But no, he just fed them. No, he just gave them the oil. He met the need of the widow. He met the need of these people who needed to eat this day, right? And so, and there was always more than enough. God is more than enough. That's what he told Paul in 2 Corinthians 12. My grace is sufficient. My grace is enough for your day. My peace is enough for your day. I'm going to carry you through today. I've got enough of whatever you need to make it today. Here's the key though. We go back to what we looked at yesterday. The key is running back to God and going, man, I don't know. I actually want to look at that real quick because I actually was reading that again this morning too. In Psalm 143, there was a little kicker, and then I promise I'll be done. I'm trying to hurry. I like to keep it short. But the other thing was this. David said this. He said, let me hear of you and fell in love. Okay, he said, show me where to walk. I come to you. There's the catch. The catch is we come to him, right? Show me where to walk. I've come to you for help. I'm coming to you, God, for grace. I'm coming to you for wisdom for today. I don't know what to do with the loaves of bread I've got. I don't know what to do with the little bit of oil I've got. I'm trusting you to expand it. I'm trusting you to provide. I'm trusting you to be my all today. I come to you. I need you to show me where to walk, but I've come to you. So there was an action and a reaction. His action was, I come to you. Now show me where to walk. The next part is to save me from my enemies, Lord. I run to you to hide me. There was an action there, right? David's not just saying, okay, save me, show me what to do, tell me where to go, help me. He's giving him God an action to work with. I run to you. Please save me, protect me, keep me in that peace, right? He says, teach me to do your will, for you are my God. And that's the key. When we make God God of our lives, we make him Lord of our lives, because that's something that's given. We give God the guardianship, so to speak. We give God that lordship. God can do what he wants, but the woman had to give that last little bit of oil. The man brought the bread and gave the bread, and then the bread was spread out. So whatever we've got, God will say, it's enough. And so is his grace. We've got what we need to make it today and every day, as we run to him, as we hide to him, as we come to him, as we trust him, and just make him and say, you are the God of my life. I want to follow you. I need your wisdom, not mine. I need your grace. I need to know that I've got this peace. No matter what happens, God is still right here, and we can peace out because he's got us covered, and his grace, his provision is enough. That's why we can peace out. Peace out, you guys. Have a great day. I'll see you bright and early Monday morning.